The SOS that awakened the sleeping human war giants. Part 1. 300 years ago, the galaxy learned to fear one species above all others. They were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They did not have claws or fangs or armored skin. But when humanity went to war, entire star systems burned. The Great Galactic War lasted only 5 years. It ended not because humanity lost, but because they won so completely that the other species begged them to stop. The Galactic Council, a gathering of 100 different alien races, came to Earth with a simple request. Please, they said, no more. The humans agreed, but they had conditions. They would leave galactic society. They would return to their own solar system and stay there. They would seal away their weapons and their war machines. In exchange, the galaxy would leave them alone and peace would last forever. The Galactic Council agreed immediately. They would have agreed to anything. And so humanity disappeared. They sealed their terrible weapons in underground vaults. They put their soldiers into frozen sleep. They turned their war machines off and let them gather dust in the darkness. The giants went to sleep, and the galaxy breathed again. 300 years passed. The species that had fought against humanity grew old and died. Their children heard stories about the war, but they did not believe them. Their grandchildren thought the stories were myths. Their great-grandchildren forgot the stories entirely. Humanity became a legend, then a fairy tale, then nothing at all. On a small farming planet called Verdant 7, life was peaceful and simple. The Veloci people had lived there for 200 years. They were gentle creatures with blue skin and large eyes. They grew crops. They raised animals. They built small villages and lived quiet lives. A young Veloci girl named Lyra sat on a hill outside her village. She was 12 years old, curious about everything, and often bored with farm life. She looked up at the stars and wondered what else was out there. Her grandmother walked up the hill slowly. Grandmother was very old, nearly 200 years old, which was ancient even for a Veloci. She sat down next to Lyra with a tired sigh. Watching the stars again, Grandmother asked. There are so many of them, Lyra said. So many places we have never seen. Grandmother nodded slowly. Be grateful for this quiet place, child. The galaxy is not always kind. Lyra had heard this before. Grandmother always talked about being grateful, about how lucky they were to live in peaceful times. But Lyra wanted adventure. She wanted to see alien cities and strange worlds. Tell me a story, Lyra said. Tell me about the old times. Grandmother was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke in a low voice. Have I ever told you about the sleeping giants? Lyra shook her head. She had heard most of Grandmother's stories many times, but this one was new. Long ago, Grandmother said, before your mother was born, before I was born, there was a great war. Many species fought against each other. It was terrible. Millions died. Planets burned. What stopped it? Lyra asked. Humans, Grandmother said. Lyra laughed. Humans, but humans are just a story. They are not real. They are real, Grandmother said, and her voice was serious now. I met one once when I was very young, before they went away. Lyra stopped laughing. Grandmother never lied about important things. What were they like? Lyra asked. Grandmother thought for a moment. They looked weak, soft skin, no claws, short lives, but their eyes were different. When they looked at you, you felt like they could see everything about you, every secret, every fear. That sounds scary, Lyra said. It was, Grandmother admitted, but not in a bad way. The human I met was kind to me. He gave me food when I was hungry, but I could tell that if he wanted to, he could be very dangerous. What happened to them? Where did they go? They made a promise, Grandmother said. They promised to stop fighting. They sealed away their weapons and their war machines. Giant metal creatures as tall as mountains. They called them Titans. Titans, Lyra repeated. The word felt strange on her tongue. The humans put their soldiers to sleep in special pods that keep them alive but frozen. They are still there, somewhere in their solar system, waiting. Waiting for what? Grandmother looked up at the stars, waiting for someone to need them again. Lyra thought about this. But if they are asleep, how would they know if someone needed help? They left devices, Grandmother said. Emergency beacons. If someone activates one, the signal travels across the galaxy. It wakes them up. Do we have one? Lyra asked. Grandmother was quiet for a long time. Finally, she nodded once. Where? Lyra asked, excited now. That is not for you to know, Grandmother said firmly. It is only to be used if all hope is lost, if everything is ending and there is no other choice. The humans made us promise never to use it unless we truly needed them. Why? Grandmother sighed. Because when humans wake up for war, terrible things happen. They saved the galaxy once, but they destroyed much of it in the process. The Galactic Council hopes they will never need to wake up again. Lyra nodded, but secretly she was disappointed. She wanted to meet a human. She wanted to see a Titan, but she understood that some things were better left alone. Far away on Earth's moon there was a bunker buried deep underground. It had been built 300 years ago and it had not been opened since. Automated machines kept everything running. They cleaned the floors. They checked the systems. They waited. In long rows, giant metal figures stood in the darkness. These were the Titans, 40 meters tall, covered in weapons built for destruction. They had not moved in 3 centuries. Dust covered their shoulders. Their eyes were dark, but they were ready. They were always ready. Next to the Titans were smaller rooms filled with pods. These pods glowed with soft blue light. Inside each pod was a human frozen in time. They did not age. They did not dream. They simply waited. One of these humans was Captain Do-Yun. He had been 35 years old when he went to sleep. He was still 35 years old now. His face was calm and peaceful. He did not know that 300 years had passed. He did not know that everyone he had ever known was dead. He did not know that the galaxy had forgotten his name. But the machines remembered. The automated systems checked his pod every day, making sure he was healthy, making sure he was ready. If the signal ever came, Captain Do-Yun would be the first to wake up. His crew slept nearby. Lieutenant Yuna, who could pilot a Titan better than anyone else. Sergeant Tiwu, who had never lost a battle. Engineer Jisoo, who could fix anything that broke. They were a team. They had fought together in the Great War. They had agreed to sleep together, to wait together, to wake up together if needed. In the main control room, a single red light blinked slowly. It had been blinking for 300 years. It was the receiver for the emergency beacon system. It was listening to the galaxy, waiting for a call for help. The light blinked once every second. It had blinked over 9 billion times since the humans went to sleep. It was still waiting. Above the bunker on the surface of the moon, everything was quiet. The stars shone down on gray dust and ancient footprints. Earth hung in the sky, blue and green and beautiful. Humans still lived there, but they were different now. They had forgotten how to fight. They had forgotten the old ways. They lived peaceful lives and never thought about war. But under the surface, the giants slept. The machines watched. The red light blinked. And somewhere across the galaxy, something dark was moving. Something hungry. Something that had never heard of humans, had never seen a Titan, had never known fear. It was coming. The peace was about to end. The SOS that awakened the sleeping human war giants, Part 2. The Krath came without warning. They were a species from beyond the mapped galaxy, from the dark spaces between stars where no one had ever traveled. They were tall, almost 3 meters, with hard shells like insects and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. Their eyes were completely black. They did not speak. They did not negotiate. They only conquered. The Krath Dominion had destroyed 50 worlds before anyone in the Galactic Council even knew they existed. They moved fast, they hit hard, and they showed no mercy. Verdant 7 was just another target to them. A small farming colony with no military, no weapons, no defenses. Easy prey. Lyra was helping her mother in the fields when she saw the first ship. It was a black shape against the blue sky, moving slowly, blocking out the sun. Then there was another ship, and another, and another. Within minutes, the entire sky was dark with craft vessels. "What is that?" Lyra whispered. Her mother dropped her tools and grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run," she said. "Run now." The village alarm began to sound. Lyra had never heard it before. It was loud and terrible, a sound that meant danger, that meant death was coming. The first craft drop ships landed in the fields. Huge metal doors opened and soldiers poured out. Hundreds of them, thousands. They carried weapons that glowed with strange energy. They made clicking sounds with their mouths as they spread out across the land. Lyra ran with her mother toward the village center. All around them, people were screaming and running. Some tried to hide. Some tried to fight with farm tools. None of it mattered. The Krath soldiers killed everything in their path. They did not care if their targets were young or old, strong or weak. They shot farmers in the back as they ran. They burned houses with people still inside. They destroyed everything. Lyra saw her neighbor, an old man who had taught her how to fish, fall to the ground with a hole burned through his chest. She saw children crying over their dead parents. She saw fire and smoke and blood everywhere she looked. "Keep running," her mother shouted. "Do not look back." They reached the village center. The Galactic Council had a small peacekeeping station there. Soldiers in blue uniforms were trying to organize a defense, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. "Everyone get inside," a soldier shouted. "We have called for help. Reinforcements are coming." Lyra and her mother crowded into the station with dozens of other survivors. Through the windows, Lyra could see the battle outside. The council soldiers fought bravely, but the Krath kept coming. For every one that fell, 10 more took its place. The reinforcements arrived 2 hours later. A fleet of council warships appeared in the sky, and for a moment, Lyra felt hope. That hope died quickly. The Krath ships in orbit turned their weapons on the council fleet. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. One by one, the council ships exploded. Burning debris fell from the sky like rain. "No," Lyra's mother whispered. "No, no, no." The council soldiers in the station received the news through their communicators. The fleet was destroyed. No more help was coming. They were alone. By evening, the Krath had taken control of the entire colony. The survivors were rounded up and forced to kneel in the village center. Lyra knelt between her mother and grandmother, who had somehow survived the attack. She was shaking with fear, but she tried to be brave. A Krath larger than the others walked through the rows of prisoners. This one had gold markings on its shell and wore a cape made from the skins of other species. The other Krath soldiers treated it with respect. This was clearly their leader. "The warlord," Lyra heard someone whisper. That was what the other species called the Krath commanders. The warlord stopped in front of the prisoners and made a series of clicking sounds. A device on its chest translated the clicks into words. "This world now belongs to the Krath Dominion," the translation said. "You will work for us. You will serve us. Those who resist will die. Those who try to escape will die. Those who are too weak to work will die." Lyra felt her grandmother's hand squeeze hers. "There will be no rescue," the warlord continued. "Your council fleet is destroyed. Your peacekeepers are dead. No one is coming to save you, except this, and you may live a little longer." The Krath soldiers began separating the prisoners. The strong ones were taken to work camps. The old and sick were taken somewhere else. Lyra did not want to think about what happened to them. That night, Lyra, her mother, and her grandmother were locked in a storage building with other survivors. It was cold and dark. People were crying. Some were praying to gods that had not answered. "We are going to die here," someone said in the darkness. No one argued. Grandmother pulled Lyra close. Listen to me, she whispered. Do you remember what I told you about the sleeping giants? Lyra nodded. It seemed like a lifetime ago that she had sat on that hill, looking at stars, listening to stories. The emergency beacon, Grandmother said. It is in the old bunker on the hill behind the village, the one we always thought was just a storage building. Grandmother, that is just a story, Lyra said. The humans are not real. They are real, Grandmother said fiercely. I told you I met one. They are real and they can help us. But the Krath are everywhere. We cannot get to the bunker. We have to try, Grandmother said. It is our only hope. Lyra looked at her mother. Her mother's face was pale and scared, but she nodded slowly. She is right, her mother said. We cannot just wait here to die. They waited until the middle of the night. The Krath guards were not watching the storage building closely. They did not expect the weak Veloci to try anything. Grandmother knew a way out. There was a loose board in the back wall, hidden behind some old crates. The three of them squeezed through into the darkness outside. The village was burning. Krath soldiers patrolled the streets, but there were shadows to hide in. Grandmother led the way, moving slowly because of her old bones, but quietly. She had lived on this colony for almost 200 years. She knew every path, every hiding spot. It took them an hour to reach the hill. The bunker was a small building made of metal, half buried in the ground. Lyra had played near it as a child but had never thought anything of it. The door was locked, but Grandmother knew the code. Her hands shook as she pressed the buttons. The door opened. Inside, the bunker was small and dusty. There was nothing there except a single device on a metal stand. It was square, about the size of a book, with a red button on top and strange symbols that Lyra did not recognize. Human writing, Grandmother said. This is it, the emergency beacon. How do we use it? Lyra asked. Press the button, that is all. They heard shouts outside. The Krath had noticed they were missing. Search lights swept across the hillside. Heavy footsteps approached. Do it, Grandmother said, quickly. Lyra reached for the button, but the bunker door burst open. A Krath soldier stood in the doorway, its weapon raised, its black eyes looking at them with no emotion. Grandmother stepped in front of Lyra. Go, she said, press it. The Krath soldier fired. Grandmother fell. Lyra screamed and pressed the button. The device lit up. A low hum filled the bunker. Then a light shot up from the device through the roof into the sky. It was so bright that Lyra had to cover her eyes. The Krath soldier stepped back, confused. Across the galaxy, the signal traveled faster than light. It passed stars and planets and empty space. In seconds, it reached Earth's moon. In the underground bunker, the red light that had been blinking for 300 years suddenly turned solid. Alarms began to sound. Automated voices spoke words that had not been spoken in centuries. Priority Alpha distress signal received. Threat level, extinction. Initiating awakening protocol. Machines that had been waiting came to life. Lights turned on in long hallways. Systems powered up. And in the pod room, the blue glow of the cryogenic chambers began to fade. The ice around Captain Doyon began to melt. Far away on Verdant 7, Lyra knelt next to her grandmother's body. The Krath soldier had been called away by its commanders, who were confused by the strange light in the sky. Lyra's mother held her as she cried. Did it work? Lyra asked through her tears. I do not know, her mother said. But somewhere across the stars, the giants were waking up. The SOS that awakened the sleeping human war giants, Part 3. Captain Doyon woke up slowly. His body felt heavy like he was made of stone. His lungs burned as he took his first breath. His eyes would not focus. Everything was blurry and strange. Red lights flashed around him. Alarms were screaming. He did not understand. What was happening? Where was he? Then he remembered. The sleep, the promise, the waiting. "Status report," he said, but his voice came out as a rough whisper. His throat was dry. He had not used it in a very long time. "Captain Do-yun," an automated voice responded. "Cryogenic sleep duration, 317 years. Awakening protocol initiated due to priority alpha distress signal." 300 years. Do-yun closed his eyes and let that sink in. Everyone he had known was dead. His parents, his friends, his home, all gone. But that was not important right now. A priority alpha signal meant someone was dying. Someone needed help. He forced himself to sit up. His muscles screamed in protest. Around him, other pods were opening. He saw familiar faces, all of them looking as confused and weak as he felt. "Lieutenant Yuna," he called out. "Sergeant Tiwu, Engineer Jisoo, report." One by one, they answered. Yuna's voice was shaky but strong. Tiwu sounded angry, which was normal for him. Jisoo simply said she was functional and ready. They were alive. His team was alive. "Computer," Do-yun said, "play the distress signal." The bunker speakers crackled. Then sounds filled the room, explosions, screaming, alien voices crying for help, and underneath it all a child sobbing. Do-yun listened for 30 seconds. That was enough. "Where?" he asked. The signal originated from planet Verdant 7 Outer Rim Sector. Species, Veloci, population, approximately 50,000. Current status, under attack by unknown hostile force. "Unknown?" Yuna asked. She had made it to her feet and was leaning against her pod for support. "The computer does not recognize them." "Negative. The attacking species is not in any database. They appear to have originated from beyond mapped space." Do-yun nodded slowly. A new enemy, something the galaxy had never seen before, and they were attacking a small farming colony that had no way to defend itself. "Time since signal?" Do-yun asked. 14 hours. 14 hours. A lot could happen in 14 hours. They might already be too late. "Can we make it?" Tiwu asked. He had pulled himself out of his pod and was already stretching his muscles, preparing for battle. Some things never changed. "Faster-than-light transit to Verdant 7 will take approximately 3 hours, the computer said. "Then we need to move," Do-yun said. "Now." They made their way to the Titan Bay. The hallways were clean and well lit. The automated systems had done their job perfectly for 3 centuries, keeping everything ready, waiting for this moment. The door to the Titan Bay opened, and Do-yun stopped. They were beautiful, 4 Titans standing in a row 40 meters tall. Their armor was dark gray, polished to a shine. Their weapons were loaded and ready. Their eyes were dark now, but soon they would glow with power. Do-yun's Titan was called Hammer of Dawn. It was built for close combat, with massive fists that could crush buildings and a chest-mounted cannon that could burn through anything. It had been his partner in hundreds of battles. It had saved his life more times than he could count. "Hello, old friend," he whispered. Yuna walked to her Titan, Silent Wind. It was sleeker than the others, built for speed and precision. Twin plasma blades were folded against its back, ready to extend and cut through anything in its path. Tiwu stopped in front of Iron Mountain. It was the biggest of the 4, covered in heavy armor and carrying more weapons than any single machine should hold. Missiles, cannons, machine guns, everything. Tiwu had always believed that if a problem could not be solved with firepower, you simply were not using enough firepower. Jisoo approached Bright Forge. It was different from the others, less focused on weapons and more on support. It had shield generators, repair drones, medical equipment, and communications gear. In battle, Jisoo kept the team alive and connected. "Systems check," Do-yun ordered. They climbed into their cockpits. The inside of a Titan was like a second home. Screens surrounded the pilot, showing everything the Titan could see. Controls fit perfectly in human hands. Neural links connected the pilot's thoughts to the machine's systems, making them one. Do-yun powered up Hammer of Dawn. The Titan's eyes lit up with golden light. The reactor in its chest hummed with power. Systems came online one by one. Weapons, shields, communications, everything worked perfectly. Hammer of Dawn online, Do-yun reported. Silent Wind online, Yuna said. Iron Mountain online, Tiwu growled. Bright Forge online, Jisoo confirmed. For the first time in 300 years, the Titans were awake. Open the bay doors, Do-yun commanded. The ceiling split apart. Moonlight poured in. Above them, Earth hung in the black sky, blue and green and beautiful. That is home, Yuna said softly. It was home, Do-yun corrected. We have been gone a long time. Should we contact them? Jisoo asked. Let them know we are awake. Do-yun thought about it. 300 years. Modern humans probably did not even know they existed. If they suddenly appeared, it might cause panic. And right now, there was no time for explanations. After, he said, first we answer the call. The four Titans rose from the lunar surface on columns of blue fire. They climbed higher and higher, leaving the moon behind, heading for the jump point that would take them across the galaxy. Far away, the Galactic Council detected them. In the council chambers, alarms were screaming. Representatives from dozens of species were shouting over each other in panic. On the main screen, sensor data showed 4 objects launching from Earth's moon. Large objects. Objects that matched profiles in the oldest, most classified files. Is it true? The council president asked. She was a tall, thin creature with silver skin and 3 eyes. Are those what I think they are? Yes, her advisor said, his voice shaking. They are Titans, human war machines, the sleeping giants. But they have been dormant for 3 centuries. Something woke them up. We detected an emergency beacon signal from Verdant 7 approximately 15 hours ago. The humans must have received it. The council president felt cold fear wash over her. She had read the old records. She knew what humans were capable of. The galaxy had spent 300 years rebuilding after the last time humans went to war. Can we stop them? She asked. Stop them? Her advisor looked at her like she was insane. With what? We do not have weapons that can even scratch a Titan. No one does. Then what do? We pray that they are only going to Verdant 7. We pray that they only kill the invaders. And we pray that when they are done, they go back to sleep. The council president closed her 3 eyes. She had always thought the stories about humans were exaggerated. Now she was going to find out if they were true. In the space between stars, 4 Titans traveled faster than light, heading toward a small colony where thousands were dying. Do-yun sat in his cockpit, listening to the distress signal on repeat. The sounds of suffering filled his ears. Who are these Krath? Yuna asked. The computer had given them all the information it could find, which was not much. Does it matter? Tiwu replied. They are killing innocent people. That is all I need to know. It matters because we need to know what we are fighting, Yuna said. Their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. The computer says they have hard shells and 4 arms, Jisoo reported. Energy weapons similar to standard galactic technology. No shields on their soldiers. Their vehicles have light armor. Light armor, Tiwu laughed. It was not a happy sound. They have never fought humans before. They have never fought anyone who could stop them, Do-yun said. The Galactic Council tried. They failed. The Krath think they are unstoppable. He looked at his team through the communication screen. 3 faces, 3 warriors, the last of their kind. We are going to teach them how wrong they are. The jump ended. Verdant 7 appeared before them, a green and blue world hanging in space. Ships surrounded it. Hundreds of Krath vessels, dark shapes against the stars. That is a lot of ships, Yuna said. Not enough, Tiwu replied. Do-yun opened a channel. He broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every ship in orbit and every creature on the surface could hear him. "This is Captain Doyan of the Human Defense Force. The colony of Verdant 7 is now under our protection. All Krath forces will withdraw immediately, or they will be destroyed." He waited. No response. "I do not think they are leaving," Jisoo said. Doyan smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Good." The four Titans began their descent toward the planet. The SOS that awakened the sleeping human war giants, Part 4. The sky burned. Lyra looked up from the ruins where she was hiding and saw four shapes falling through the atmosphere. They were wrapped in fire, leaving trails of smoke behind them. For a moment, she thought they were meteors, pieces of rock falling from space. Then they slowed down. Meteors did not slow down. The four shapes landed in the middle of the main Krath camp with impacts that shook the entire planet. The ground cracked, buildings fell, dust rose into the air in huge clouds. When the dust began to clear, Lyra saw them. Giants. They were enormous, as tall as the biggest buildings in the village. They looked like humans but made of metal, with glowing eyes and weapons built into their bodies. They stood in a line, facing the Krath forces that surrounded them. "The sleeping giants," Lyra whispered. "They are real." The Krath soldiers stared at the Titans. They had never seen anything like this. Their weapons were raised, but no one fired. They were waiting for orders, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. The warlord pushed through his troops. He looked at the Titans with his black eyes and felt something he had never felt before. He did not have a name for it. His species had conquered 50 worlds. They had never needed to feel fear. One of the Titans stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice boomed across the battlefield. "This is your last chance. Leave this planet or die." The warlord made a clicking sound that meant laughter. These metal creatures were large, but they were only four. His army had thousands of soldiers, hundreds of vehicles, dozens of aircraft. They could overwhelm anything with numbers. "Kill them," the warlord ordered. The Krath army opened fire. Thousands of energy weapons lit up at once. The air filled with beams of light, all aimed at the four Titans. The noise was incredible, a roar of destruction that hurt the ears and shook the ground. When the firing stopped, the Krath soldiers waited to see the melted remains of their enemies. The Titans were still standing. They had not moved. Their armor did not even have scratches. Doyan looked down at the Krath army from his cockpit. He had felt the impacts of their weapons, like gentle rain against his tightened skin. These creatures had never faced human technology. They did not understand what they were dealing with. "My turn," he said. Hammer of Dawn raised its massive fist and brought it down on a group of Krath soldiers. The impact created a crater. The soldiers disappeared, crushed into nothing. Doyan swept his arm sideways, sending more soldiers flying through the air like toys. Yuna moved Silent Wind like a dancer. Her Titan was faster than the others, spinning between groups of enemies, its plasma blades extending in a flash of white light. The blades cut through Krath soldiers and vehicles alike. Nothing could stop them. Nothing could even slow them down. Tiwu stood Iron Mountain in the center of the battlefield and simply started shooting. Missiles launched from his shoulders. Cannons roared from his arms. Machine guns rattled from every surface. A constant stream of destruction poured from his Titan, turning everything in front of him into fire and smoke. Jisoo kept Brightforge back, closer to where the surviving colonists were hiding. Her Titan's shield generators created walls of golden light that protected the civilians from stray shots. Her repair drones flew over the battlefield, grabbing injured Veloci and carrying them to safety. The battle lasted 2 hours. It was not really a battle. Battles are when two sides fight and either could win. This was something else. This was a lesson. The Krath threw everything at the Titans. Infantry, tanks, artillery, aircraft. None of it worked. Their weapons could not pierce Titan armor. Their numbers meant nothing when each Titan could kill hundreds of soldiers in minutes. Their tactics were useless against enemies that could fly, could jump, could move faster than anything they had ever seen. Lyra watched from her hiding place. She saw a Krath tank fire its main cannon at the big Titan, the one covered in weapons. The shot hit the Titan's chest. The Titan looked down at the tank for a moment. Then it raised one foot and stepped on it. The tank was flattened like paper. The warlord watched his army die. He watched his soldiers fall by the hundreds. He watched his vehicles burn. He watched his aircraft get swatted from the sky. And finally, he felt that strange feeling again. Now he knew its name. Fear. Fall back, he screamed. All forces fall back to the ships. The remaining Krath soldiers ran. They dropped their weapons and fled toward the landing zones where their drop ships waited. Some made it. Most did not. Do-yun let them run. He wanted witnesses. He wanted survivors who could tell the rest of the Krath Dominion what had happened here. The warlord is escaping, Yuna reported. His shuttle is launching. We are not done, Do-yun said. Follow me. The four Titans activated their flight systems. Blue fire erupted from their backs, and they rose into the sky, chasing the retreating Krath forces into orbit. The Krath fleet had watched the battle on the surface. They had seen their ground forces destroyed. Now they saw the Titans coming toward them, and they started to panic. Ships tried to scatter. Some tried to jump to faster than light. Others opened fire with their largest weapons, massive beams of energy that could destroy space stations. The beams hit the Titans and did nothing. Do-yun flew Hammer of Dawn directly into the nearest Krath cruiser. He punched through its hull like it was made of glass, ripping out machinery and reactors, tearing the ship apart from the inside. He emerged from the other side as the cruiser exploded behind him. Yuna danced through the fleet, her plasma blades cutting ships in half. Tiwu floated in place, launching missiles and firing cannons until every ship in his section of space was burning. Jisoo hacked into the Krath communication systems, sending false orders that caused ships to crash into each other. In 30 minutes, the Krath fleet was destroyed. Hundreds of ships turned to debris and fire. Only one ship remained, the warlord's flagship, the biggest and fastest vessel in the fleet. It had already started its jump sequence. In seconds, it would escape. Yuna Do-yun said, "The engines." Silent wind moved like lightning. Yuna reached the flagship and cut through its engine section with one sweep of her blade. The jump sequence failed. The ship drifted, powerless. Do-yun landed on the hull of the flagship. He ripped open an airlock and entered the ship. Inside, Krath soldiers rushed to stop him. He swatted them aside without slowing down. The warlord was on the bridge, surrounded by his personal guards. When Do-yun crashed through the door, the guards opened fire. It did nothing. Do-yun was wearing human combat armor, and it was designed to stop much worse than Krath weapons. He walked through the fire and grabbed the warlord by the throat. "You attacked an innocent colony," Do-yun said. His voice was calm and quiet, which made it more frightening than any shout. "You killed civilians. You murdered children. You thought no one would stop you." The warlord struggled, but he was like an insect in Do-yun's grip. "You were wrong." Do-yun dragged the warlord back to the airlock. He opened a communication channel that broadcast to the entire galaxy. "This is Captain Do-yun of the Human Defense Force. I am speaking to everyone who can hear this. The Krath Dominion attacked the colony of Verdant 7. They killed innocent people. They showed no mercy." He lifted the warlord so everyone could see him. "Humanity made a promise 300 years ago. We said we would stop fighting. We said we would leave the galaxy alone, and we kept that promise. For 300 years we slept while you rebuilt, while you healed, while you forgot about us." His grip tightened on the warlord's throat. "But our promise had conditions. We said we would sleep unless we were needed, unless innocent people were dying, unless someone called for help. The warlord made choking sounds. Someone called, we answered, and this is what happens to those who prey on the helpless while we sleep. Do-yun opened the airlock and threw the warlord into space. He watched the body drift away, spinning slowly in the darkness. Then he continued his broadcast. The sleeping giants are awake. We do not seek war. We do not want to conquer anyone, but we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Spread the word. Tell everyone. If you attack the innocent, we will come, and we will not be gentle. He cut the transmission. Across the galaxy, billions of beings had watched. They had seen the Krath fleet destroyed. They had seen the warlord executed. They had seen the Titans in action for the first time in 3 centuries. They remembered the old stories. They remembered why their ancestors had been so afraid. The humans were awake. The SOS that awakened the sleeping human war giants, Part 5. The aftermath was quiet. The Titans landed near the ruined village of Verdant 7. Their eyes dimmed as the pilots powered down their systems. Hatches opened, and for the first time in 300 years, humans stepped onto alien soil. Lyra watched them climb down from their machines. They moved slowly, carefully, like they were not used to walking on their own legs, and she supposed they were not. They had been sleeping for a very long time. The first one to reach the ground was a man with tired eyes and a gentle face. He looked around at the destruction, the burned buildings, the bodies covered with blankets, the crying survivors. His expression was sad. "We were too late," he said quietly. A woman with short hair landed beside him. "We saved who we could, Do-yun. That is all we can ever do." Lyra stepped out from her hiding place. She was still shaking, still covered in dust and dirt. Her grandmother was dead. Her village was destroyed, but she needed to know. "Excuse me," she said. The humans turned to look at her. She almost ran away. They were terrifying, these sleeping giants, these warriors who had destroyed an entire fleet in less than an hour. But the man Do-yun crouched down so he was at her eye level. He smiled, and suddenly he did not look terrifying at all. He looked kind. "Hello," he said. "Are you all right?" Lyra nodded, then shook her head, then started crying. Everything that had happened came crashing down on her at once. The attack, the deaths, her grandmother. She pressed the button. She had woken up the giants, and now they were here. Do-yun did something she did not expect. He hugged her. A human, a warrior, a pilot of a machine that could destroy planets, wrapped his arms around a crying alien girl and held her while she sobbed. "You are safe now," he said softly. "I promise you are safe." The next few days were busy. Medical ships arrived from other colonies to help the survivors. Galactic Council representatives came to assess the damage and offer assistance. Construction teams began clearing rubble and building temporary shelters. The 4 Titans stood guard over the colony. They did not leave. Do-yun said they would stay until Verdant 7 was safe again. Lyra spent a lot of time with the humans. She learned their names. Do-yun was the captain, the leader. Yuna was his second, a quiet woman with sharp eyes. Tiwu was loud and friendly, always making jokes to help the survivors smile. Jisoo was kind and patient, teaching the colonists how to use the advanced medical equipment she had brought. "Why did you come?" Lyra asked Do-yun one evening. They were sitting on the same hill where she used to watch the stars with her grandmother. "You could have stayed asleep. You could have ignored the signal." Do-yun looked at the sky. The stars were beautiful tonight, bright and clear. "We made a promise," he said. "A long time ago, humanity decided to stop fighting. We put away our weapons and went to sleep. But we knew that someday someone might need us, so we left the beacons. We set up the systems. We made sure that if someone was in trouble, we would know." "But you did not know us," Lyra said. "You did not know anything about Verdant 7 or the Veloci. We are strangers to you." Yes, Doyan agreed. But that does not matter. Someone was hurting and we could help. That is enough. Lyra thought about this. It was such a simple idea. See someone in trouble, help them. She wondered if other species would do the same. My grandmother told me stories about humans, she said. She said you were dangerous. She said the galaxy was afraid of you. Doyan smiled sadly. Your grandmother was right. We are dangerous. When we fight, terrible things happen. That is why we stopped fighting. That is why we went asleep. Then why did you wake up? Because being dangerous is not the same as being evil. A knife can be used to hurt people, but it can also be used to cut rope and free someone who is trapped. We chose to use our power to protect, not to conquer. Lyra nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand. A week later, a message arrived from the Krath Dominion. It was addressed directly to the humans. The message was simple. The Krath would never attack any world under human protection. They would withdraw from the outer rim. They would release all prisoners they had taken. They begged, with words that did not translate well into other languages, for the humans to please not destroy them. Doyan read the message and sent a short reply. Agreed, but we will be watching. The Galactic Council was more complicated. Representatives came from dozens of species, all of them nervous, all of them afraid. They remembered the old war. They remembered what humans could do. The council president, the tall woman with silver skin and 3 eyes, met with Doyan personally. We are grateful for what you did on Verdant 7, she said carefully, but we are also concerned. The peace has lasted for 3 centuries. We do not want another war. Neither do we, Doyan said. We did not wake up because we wanted to fight. We woke up because innocent people were dying and no one else could save them. But now that you are awake, what happens next? Will you go back to sleep? Doyan thought about this. He looked at his team. Yuna Tiwu Jisoo, they had given up everything to sleep for 300 years. They had lost everyone they ever knew. They had woken up in a galaxy that did not remember them. We will stay awake, he said finally. For now, there may be other threats like the Krath, other dangers that your council cannot stop. We will be here if you need us. The council president did not look happy about this, but she nodded. And if we do not need you, then we will leave you alone. We will return to our solar system and live quietly. We will not interfere in galactic politics. We will not try to conquer anyone, but we will be watching. And if someone activates an emergency beacon, we will answer. The council president considered this. It was not the answer she wanted, but it was better than she feared. The humans were not demanding power or territory. They just wanted to help. We accept, she said, but there will be rules, agreements, treaties. Of course, Doyan agreed. We will work out the details. A month later, the Titans left Verdant 7. The colony was being rebuilt. New families were arriving from other worlds to help. Life was slowly returning to normal. Lyra stood on her hill and watched the 4 giants rise into the sky. They grew smaller and smaller until they were just dots of light, then nothing at all. But she knew they were still out there, watching, waiting, ready to answer if someone needed help. The humans returned to Earth. They found it strange and familiar at the same time. Their descendants had built a peaceful society, one without war, without weapons, without conflict. It was beautiful, but it was not home, not anymore. Doyan's team was given a special status. They were the guardians, the last warriors of humanity, the pilots of the Titans. They trained new recruits, young humans who wanted to carry on the legacy. They built new machines and developed new technologies. They prepared for the next time the galaxy would need them. Because there would be a next time, there was always a next time. Years passed. Lyra grew up and became a leader in her community. She told stories about the sleeping giants to children, but she did not call them fairy tales. She called them history. Humans are real, she would say. I met them. They saved my life. And if you are ever in trouble, if everything seems hopeless, remember this. Somewhere out there, the giants are watching, and if you call for help, they will answer." The children would look up at the stars with wonder and hope. Far away, in a training facility on Earth's moon, Do-Yun stood on a balcony and watched young pilots practice with their Titans. They were clumsy and inexperienced, but they were learning. They would be ready when they were needed. Yuna joined him. She was older now, with gray in her hair, but her eyes were still sharp. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, waking up. Do-Yun thought about the question. He thought about everything they had lost, their families, their friends, their entire world. He thought about the burden they carried, the responsibility of being humanity's protectors. Then he thought about Lyra, a little girl crying in the ruins of her village who had pressed a button and hoped for a miracle. He thought about the survivors they had saved, the children who would grow up because of what they did. "No," he said, "I do not regret it." "Why not?" He watched a young pilot take her first steps in a training Titan. She stumbled, fell, got back up, just like humanity always did. "Because we made a choice a long time ago. We chose to protect instead of conquer. We chose to sleep instead of fight. We chose to be guardians instead of tyrants." He smiled slightly. "Someone needed help. We woke up. That is what we do." Yuna nodded. She understood. The stars shone down on them, endless and beautiful. Somewhere out there, billions of beings lived their lives, knowing that if danger came, help would answer. The giants were awake. The guardians were watching. And humanity stood ready. Always.